the best news a guy like me could have is that the day I took the job, the voters approved Proposition 30. And so the fiscal challenges that we have been withstanding over the past 4 years have been lessened considerably. It's not a panacea, it's not a solution to all of our problems, but it certainly does head us in the right direction. We've been able to add back some of the classes we've had to cut, serving about 20,000 students more up and down the state as a result of the Prop 30 victory in the current year, and we certainly expect to add back even more classes in coming years. Well, it's been a challenge for California in the past few years because not only the community college system, but the CSU and the UC have had to ration education to Californians. And anytime you take that kind of reduction over a series of years, then you do see an exodus not only of students who've left the state, but faculty and staff and managers who've gone other places as well. So it's been a challenge. However, I think that with the passage of Prop 30 and the restoration at all three segments of higher ed, that that relief has come in time. I think we will be able to reestablish access to our colleges and universities in California in the not too distant future. Well, I think when you look at the enrollment in the system, the news is not good. We went from a high of about 2.9 million students in 2008 down currently to below 2.4 million students. So that the denial of access has certainly been hard for the system. However, on the other side of the important coin is the success of our students, and actually the news there is a bit better. Over the last couple of years, even during these really difficult financial times, the Board of Governors charted a pathway toward improving student success, and they've taken a number of steps to really begin doing that. And so I think what we're going to see as access returns is we're also going to see higher numbers of students graduating and getting degrees and transferring, finishing courses, completing certificates. So I actually am quite optimistic about the future of the system. Proposition 30 certainly does give us some certainty in the next few years. Now, we all know that the revenues from Prop 30 are set to sunset 5 or 7 years out, and so hopefully during that time the state's economy will recover, and as it does that and revenues improve, then I think you'll see a rebuilding of the financial infrastructure of the state. Now, there are all kinds of things that can happen to the economy in the meantime, and of course we can't take this improved climate for granted. This past several years and the financial challenges that the colleges have been under have been extremely difficult for many of them. And the solution to that is we have to work with those colleges so that they do meet the accreditation standards. In the case of not only San Francisco, but 2 or 3 of our other colleges, they are in serious jeopardy of losing their accreditation. However, in all of those cases, as you can imagine, the people at the college are working tirelessly to meet the standards, restore their accreditation to full status, and get back to paying attention solely to educating students. And the folks in San Francisco are working very hard to do just that. The governor's recommended a robust increase in online education for all of California higher education, and I think that's certainly something we need to be talking about. He's recommended a unit level cap for our students, suggesting that if they take too many units, they ought to have to pay for their education themselves. And our own Board of Governors has already instituted a 100 unit cap and suggested if students exceed that, they have to go to the back of the line in terms of enrollment. The governor's also recommended outcomes-based funding, which is something that has been floated in the past. We have concerns over that, but again, that's a conversation I think we need to have. And then the governor finally has recommended that a change in the delivery of adult education in the state. Anytime a policy recommendation is made, the challenge is in the details of the policy itself. We do worry, for example, that some students come to us after already completing a bachelor's degree. They can't find a job in their area of study, and so they come back to a community college perhaps to learn to be a nurse. And those students are going to, by nature, have very high unit accumulation already. And yet, do we really want to shut them out of furthering their education? Probably not. So I think that our own Board of Governors realizes that we can't let students just take credits indefinitely. They really do need to be serious about their education. But the challenge will be, in a policy like that, working out the details so that we don't have unintended consequences which disadvantage the very students that need us the most. There was actually a similar bill floated a couple of years ago that changed into the Student Success Task Force. So we think the work of the task force, 22 recommendations, and 20 of them are already underway, we think that's going to get to the same place that an outcomes-based funding approach would take us. And we think without a certain number of risks. An outcomes-based education does have the risk of turning away the most educationally and economically disadvantaged students. And again, we don't think that's in California's best interest. California's community college system is rather unique. If you look at the community colleges across the rest of the country, they are much less comprehensive than California's community colleges. So when you go to a college like LA City or Sacramento City or San Francisco, you see a robust offering for a college freshman and sophomore. Not only do you see all kinds of clubs and organizations, but you see athletics, you see opportunities in student government, and many of those kinds of things you don't see in other parts of the country. This is part of the master plan. So we believe that robust set of offerings is important to our students. And yes, there have been some reductions not only in physical education courses, but in some of the arts areas as well. And yet, we still have protected, thankfully, all those majors, because when you look at California, some of our biggest industries are in recreation and sports and arts and entertainment. So we're training, even at the community college level, some of the people who are going to work in those industries in the future. Obviously, the last 4 years have been a challenge for our colleges, but we don't think cutting any of the programs that are viable for the state of California makes any sense. So I think you're going to continue to see a robust set of arts and athletics in all of our colleges.